with you. Ooh, my cue. I'm gonna act like there's lots of people in the crowd. All right, I guess that's my cue, correct? I'm ready to get started. Good afternoon, everyone that is in the audience today or tuned in online. Welcome to our very last CPS Board of Education Health and Safety Committee meeting for 2023. I would like to thank my colleague, Board Member Morosky, who's not here with us today, but we miss him. And I would like to, of course, thank Board Member Jones for their hard work and their dedication on this committee. I appreciate the both of you for dealing with me. No, I'm just kidding. For helping and supporting me. And I just want to make kind of a quick announcement really quick. This will be Board Member Jones' last appearance on health and safety and her last appearance on the board. I wanted to play music, but I couldn't play music. And I thought about singing, but I think that you probably would turn that off, you know? So I wanted to give you a little token of appreciation. Can we get a drum roll, please?
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you.
All right, Board Member Jones. I appreciate you so much. Hello. Welcome, welcome. You are quite welcome. Oh, and don't look at the price tag on there. I'm sorry about that. Yep,
Yeah,
you can just take a seat if you want to fill out something, if you want to speak. I'm getting to that in just a second. We just got started. But yes, it is. So yes, we just want to thank Board Member Jones for everything, and we will miss you greatly.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can chuckle at the little note that I wrote to you there. And I better be your favorite board member, okay? Okay?
Sure.
All right, so moving on now to my left, I want to thank our administration. Dr. Little, thank you so much for being here at Health and Safety, and we look forward to hearing you today. You will be talking about updates on menstrual products and security at athletic events, and then we will hopefully have Susan Shelton, who will be presenting for about 5 minutes on MindPeace and being able to answer any of our questions for today. I will be giving a quick overview of how 2023 went for us, coming from a committee standpoint. And then I will ask Board Member Jones if she would like to add anything. And my goal is to be very efficient with our time. And we'll talk briefly about next year. Hopefully I'll put in a little plug. Maybe I can be health and safety chair again. I don't know, knock on wood. And of course, weighing in any concerns that we might have for this year. Who's ready for the party to start? All right, we're ready. So I'm gonna say, as a reminder for those of you who are tuned in virtually, and if you are here today and you would love to speak, there is a form. Is there a form over there, Rob? There's a form that you can fill out if you'd like to speak. And if you are online, the chat feature is open for 3 minutes. Please submit your name, your affiliation to the district, your school community, your topic that you might want to speak on, and your contact information if you would like a response back. And we will hear from you during hearing of the public. So, first up on the agenda was supposed to be about MindPeace. And we're going to skip that for a short time. And we're going to start with, did you have something you wanted to update me with? Oh, she's coming through security. So, should we wait? We'll wait for a second.
If I could make my comments, unless you just.
Oh, yes, you do get comments. I forgot about that.
Okay.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Da-da-da, Board Member Jones.
All right. Thank you, Mary. First of all, thank you so much for the flowers and the card. I really appreciate that. And it's been a rough little period, anticipating this being my last official day of meetings. But here at Health and Safety Committee, I did want to take the opportunity to thank you personally for the excellent job that you have done to make this the most efficient meeting. And I've seen you grow in this. And I don't mean that you didn't start off wrong, but I think just being a fairly, one of our newest board members, it's hard sometimes to kind of catch up and grapple with what needs to happen in these meetings. I think you've done a great job. And as you all, for our public, as you can see, she's probably one of the most bubbly people, and it drives me nuts. But anyway, she is who she is, and I don't think I would have her any other way. But anyway, so I want to congratulate you on a great job for facilitating this meeting and the agenda. And I know when you talk about what's going to happen next year, or I don't know if you're going to talk about that, but what has happened this year, whatever, I think that we've made a lot of headway in terms of the direction of this committee. So I appreciate that. And maybe I'll tune in sometime just to put some checks and balances on, because you know me, Gary, I'll call you.
Yes, you'll say yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And we have our wonderful, are you ready? I'll let you go ahead and take your coat off, get a little comfortable, and I think the mic should be on. Is it already on for her to get started? All right, so up we have Susan Shelton, MindPeace, and hopefully you're ready to go.
Hi, yes.
How are you?
I am great, thanks.
Thank you so much for being here.
A couple minutes late.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I can't believe so it's just fun to be here, think back at all the years of partnership with CPS. So I'm just waiting to.
And just to update everyone who's listening, Susan Shelton will be updating us about MindPeace and some of the services in terms of mental health for our students here in the district.
Great. Okay. So I'm just going to do a little bit of reminding about the function of MindPeace, and then we're going to talk about progress and where some of the partnerships are, and then areas of opportunity. Next slide, please. So.
And then are you able to just speak up a little bit louder for me?
I think so. Does that help?
That is better.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. So the mission of MindPeace is to ensure that every child and teen has access to a system of care for mental health. And I like to think of it as the right care at the right time, from prevention all the way through to access to treatment and hospital. And so we work at the system level. And then we also, a big, huge part of our work is with school-based mental health partnerships. And so we have a network, a school-based mental health network that MindPeace leads. And it's really a learning community. And what that means is that we're always trying to get better, trying to get to nirvana, but we may never get there. So it's just about improvement. Next slide. These are the ways that MindPeace assists CPS specifically. So we lead the network with CPS, facilitate all the new school-based mental health partnerships. And actually, that's where we had 3 interviews back-to-back with Rockdale Academy this morning. So that was exciting. We strengthen school-based partnerships. So looking at processes, eliminate roadblocks, shared outcomes, provide assistance with tools for success, coordinate quality improvement efforts. And an example of that was today at Cheviot. Had a meeting with their principal and their mental health partner about things that they really need to see gaps and where could there be improvements with their school staff and with access to treatment and just things that are going on in the community. So we have discussions like that. How can we leverage resources in the community to make sure that those gaps are being met? We provide guidance on the mental health and wellness system. What does a good system look like? Connect to intervention resources, professional development, and then build capacity for the system. One of the goals was to bring on into the network mental health organizations that largely have therapists of color. And so every year, the past 2 years, we brought an organization on, and this year we just have another new partner, Butterfly Support Services, who just joined the network. So again, building capacity on who can provide school-based mental health and providing technical assistance for that mental health agency. And then we improve the capacity around crisis response and support services. And then we have an annual mental health gathering where we learn from all the school teams. They come together in August to review data from the previous year, and then how do we get better the coming year. Next slide. These are the lead mental health partners for Cincinnati Public Schools right now. The interviews for Rockdale, as I said, happen. They'll be choosing their partner before we break for holidays. So who knows, we may have a new partner on the list. I don't know. It's up to the team to decide. Okay, next slide. And then the goal is so that students and families who need access to services have that access. And when I say services for treatment, that's therapy, which is the front door of the system. That's where the assessment happens for a child. And then case management, and that's where additional resources for the family can be found. They practice things that the therapists have identified in the school, in the community. They kind of can reach into the classroom and collaborate with the teachers, and then access to medication if in fact the family would like that service. So always with guardian consent, all those services. So if we look at how we did last year, so you see that dip in the curve, that was the hideous pandemic. So we are inching our way out of that. And then we came back from 2,000 referrals to almost 3,000. And then last year, this is the year that we're measuring last year, 2,900. This is the effect of the workforce crisis. So I think we're seeing that that's getting better. So I really feel like this coming school year will hit the 3,000 mark and be back online with where we want to be. 20% of kids have the need for mental health treatment. So this is very much in line with school-based services. I'd like to benchmark around 10%, 12%, because not all families want school-based, and that's okay. That's how many were made, and 457 referrals were made for medication management. And I like to see that. I want to know that there's medication management available. It speaks to the fact that families have the full continuum of treatment services, but I also don't want to see that it's overused, and you can see that it is not. Next slide. So these 3 charts are really, I think they should make you feel really good about not only your mental health partners, but the schools that are the school site teams, the social workers, the school counselors, the school psychologists, your administration that are working every day to get kids in care. So the number of individual students that were served, 3,125. So we're climbing out of the pandemic and doing a nice job. Well, the CDC came out and said that only 20% of kids accessed treatment last year, only 20%. And CPS is at 71% treatment for those referred. And that is fully because of the day-to-day commitment and work of the school teams. So the principal, the school social worker, counselor, the therapist that's there, they literally are working every day to make families feel comfortable, get them what they need. And I just am like so really proud of that, because typically 50% is the benchmark nationally. So it's pretty outstanding in a national crisis with a workforce crisis, that because of this infrastructure that we have in place, your families were able to continue to get care. Is it good enough? No. We have to hit the benchmark, which is 80%, and somehow we're going to get there. And then the other thing that I think is really amazing is, so typically community mental health for families is like around 7 to 10 hours on average. And even though we had the workforce crisis and we had all these things to deal with, the teams were able to maintain 23 hours on average per student for treatment, which is a really also strong number, because what you don't want to see is the access to care maintains, but now only kids are getting 5 hours of treatment. You know, it's like you want to try to have the same level of support as you're increasing the care, even though you have all these challenges. And all the teams really did an amazing job. For the entire region, we were at 72% access care. So CPS, a large urban district, only 1% off the entire region. So well done, you know, like it's like big kudos for the teams. Next slide. So why were the kids who were referred not able to get care? So the wait list, the therapist workforce shortage did play an impact on that. 30% of the children who did not get services were on a wait list situation. And then the next one was unable to reach. And that's sometimes, you know, in lots and lots of meetings where we're talking about families, and it's just, you know, sometimes we just keep working every day to see how do we get to those families? Do we meet them? How do we meet them where they are in order to reach them? So that's still an area of opportunity. And then some families just declined, and that's their privilege, their right, you know, they don't have to agree. And so those were the top 3 barriers to care. And we will always look at that by site and then see what other actions we can take to improve access to care. Next slide. So the other thing that we like to look at is, you know, how many kids are being identified as maybe needing services, or their families self-referred or students self-referred, because we know that kids need mental health care. And as I said before, about 20% of children have the need for services. So the thing that's really, I think, you know, amazing is that your staff is really educated about the signs and symptoms of mental health. And so about 12% of the students have been identified and offered access to services. Again, always the parent's choice. Next slide. So these are prevention services that are brought to CPS through partnerships, through all the lead mental health partnerships. And these are either through they're donating them themselves, or they're bringing along prevention dollars that they may have, say, from the United Way or from the Hamilton County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. So these are the categories that the state identifies as prevention. And so you can see the vast majority was provided through individual or group prevention services. So helping children individually where they don't have an open case, but they just are getting prevention, not treatment, obviously, but prevention services. Information, that's like attending staff meetings, attending parent-teacher conferences, and just being there to answer questions for parents. And then classroom education. A lot of times classes, they ask the mental health partner, who are experts, to come in and help them with talking about a certain subject, like it could be suicide prevention. And then screening and support, and consultation and planning. And this is teacher consultation a lot, so quite a few hours with teacher consultation. So it's really value add that the mental health partners are bringing to bear to CPS staff. And it's, again, always at the direction of the school team and what they think they need. Next slide. So how are we doing this year? So through October, working with Derek, we put in a system where we're tracking referrals in general by school, not by student name, because at the last year, you guys asked us, so how can we know better instead of waiting till the end of the year? So we listened to you, and so we find out at the 15th approximately of the month how we have done through the month before. So we're not quite at the 15th of December, so I have through October data. But 1,193 students were newly referred, so that's referrals just this year. 2,023 students are currently receiving treatment in CPS schools with parent permission, and that includes some students who continued from last year. We have 61 of 62 schools, or I'm always used to calling them community learning centers, that have school-based mental health partnerships. The only one that doesn't is Rockdale, and we did those interviews today. They'll decide this week, and then we'll launch that new partnership in January. We do have a few schools that do not have full-time therapists, so Rockdale would be one of them, but they don't also have a partner. And then Schroeder High School has no therapist in place. They have case management support. And then the MindPeace community referral is a safety net, because we never want kids to be on a wait list for treatment. And I'll explain that in a second. And then Woodward High School has no therapist in place, but they do have case management support. And that team, your administration there, and also the school social worker, psychologist, and Best Point, who's the partner, they've really been thinking out of the box of how do we get support to those kids. And so supervisors have signed up for certain days of the week that they will be there providing therapy. And then they have, we are going to do a telehealth a work there where the school has identified a room that we can have just for telehealth, and we'll have kids that are appropriate for telehealth and whose parents are okay with it get services that way. So it's really been, it's not great that they don't have a therapist, but it's been really energizing to see how the team is collaborating and trying to think out of the box to get kids services. We also have that community referral process in place too. And so the community referral process is something that started last year because we had such a big workforce shortage. And as you saw, 30% of the kids who were referred who did not get care, it was because of the crisis. So MindPeace uses the database of all the mental health providers in Greater Cincinnati, and there are about almost 1,000 of them. I hired a person specifically just to work with families individually, and what we do is we have a referral sheet that is FERPA and HIPAA compliant, that is authorized to start by the school as soon as a wait list happens, and we train your counselor, social worker, school psychologist to be able to make referrals and then put that referral information into the spreadsheet. We immediately get notification. Our person contacts the family within 24 to 48 hours of getting the referral. Hey, you're waiting, while you're waiting for a therapist at, say, Woodward High School, would you like to work with me? And I will find care in the community that meets your needs. If they say yes, then we find out what transportation barriers have, what financial barriers they may have, if they have any other family resources that they are in need of. And we then say, we'll be right back in touch with you. We go off and use our database, but then we call around the community. Sometimes it's 12, 14, 15 calls. And we find that very specific resource that will match their needs. And so then we call or text or email whatever the parent or guardian wants, and we get right back to them with, instead of just giving them a list of things like, oh, try this, we actually find the appointment for them. And it has really been well received by your families and also by the schools, because it's kind of like ooh, we have a safety net here. We don't have to worry about kids while we're trying to hire other people. So the next slide shows where we are with that process. Oh, sorry. That, I just thought it would be nice for you guys to have that. Go ahead. That list is all your partners by school, just so you have it. But you need a magnifying glass, so I apologize. But then you'll know exactly. The only one that's blank is Rockdale, that does not have a partner yet. And the next slide. So for last school year, this community referral process, we saw 15 CPS schools were on a wait list. It didn't mean that they didn't have therapists, but it meant that they had more need than the therapists could provide resources for. So we had 145 families that needed resources, and we connected with them all with actual specific resources that they could, access. So this school year, how are we doing? So we have 5 schools that are utilizing this resource. And this is the very specifics of where we are. But the cool thing is, the families are actually very engaged. We are able to reach so many of the families. Sometimes there's a worry that, families won't be interested, but they really are. And we're able to provide resources. And then if we don't, like the Schroeder and Woodward, you'll see contacted but need help from the school team. So we may be called a few times and we didn't hear, but then the school team will reach back out, and we'll keep trying until we try to connect to care. So it's a newer thing that we've established to try to help CPS schools. Next slide. And then these are the areas that I see that we've got we're working on as a network this year. So we still always have quality improvement work. We have a big quality improvement team that's working on psychiatric transitions back from school and home, and we co-lead that with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And CPS is represented. We have now in the network 25 school districts. We have 5 school districts that are on that quality team, and CPS is one of them. I have to say thank you too, because CPS always raises their hand when we have a bigger, regional quality improvement effort, and I really appreciate that. So that's very exciting. Those tests of change are happening this year, and will go on. We have just seen a growing need for grief and loss supports. I think there are a lot of neighborhoods that have had a lot of grief tied in with the gun violence, and it's really been significant. And I think it's really affected not just students, but adults as well. So MindPeace tries to connect them to Fernside and Companions on a Journey, which are 2 grief experts in the region, to set up grief groups and to provide assistance to the crisis response team that CPS has, which is excellent. And then I found that the trauma that we've seen lately with these gun violence, where we had 5 kids who were shot in a weekend. I think the resources that we used to hold for tragedies like suicides, we've decided as a region, we need to make those available for these traumatic events as well. So I've been reaching out to schools who've had these terrible things happen in their neighborhoods to provide additional supports besides the great, on-site crisis support, mental health provider. Because a lot of times all those people are affected by it themselves. And they need some outside resources, and we do have them in our community. So that link has been made this year. And then the other thing I think is the severe behaviors that schools are seeing and experiencing, which I think is, I've talked to a lot of experts, and we have kids who they missed some socialization during that period. And so it's like, I'm a 7-year-old, but I may be really acting like a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old just because I didn't experience a lot of things. And we're seeing this across the region. It doesn't matter if you're Mason or Sycamore or wherever, it's all very similar. And so how do we work through that to give everybody the supports they need? Self-care continues to be, an area of opportunity. And MindPeace participated in the Withrow. We were we worked together with 1 in 5 to be the project managers for the mental wellness days there. And that was a big success. Every single grade level got the opportunity to really understand how do you get resources either at school or in the community for mental health, for suicide prevention, and then how can I be exposed to mental wellness techniques? It was treated like it was an adult symposium, and they had everything from lanyards and a schedule. They loved the lanyards. Oh my gosh, that was so popular. And a keynote speaker, breakouts. They had boxed lunches, really nice lunches. They experienced all of that firsthand because they just really hadn't had that opportunity before. So we're now going over the results of it, the data, to see what recommendations we can make to CPS for duplicating that if possible. So, and then advocacy
I'd like
efforts
to
are
say
big.
one thing really quick.
Sure.
Sorry to cut you off.
No.
I'm going to stop for a second here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to open it up for questions so far.
Great.
And I wanted to say that this presentation, you provided actually some answers to some of the questions that I was jotting down. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you already answered that. So I wanted to say first, thank you for providing the data, because I think last year our piece that we had asked about, and I'm going to look over to Board Member Jones, just trying to figure out how those students were doing that were getting the services, and you provided the numbers with that. So I'm going to open it up to her for questions because we're over our 5 minutes, but that's okay.
Sorry, that was my last slide too.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
No, good.
Got to stay on time.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I wrote down a couple of questions, but as the presentation continued, you answered those. But I do want to make just one comment, and especially on this slide. I think with what happened in COVID, and we really are still in post-COVID.
Yeah.
We have stopped talking about it as much, but I think, and what you alluded to, is we've seen such a increase in all different kinds of areas where kids need social emotional support. And so I'm happy to see that there's work being done on that. Oh, I'm sorry. I would have moved it. I'm happy to see that there's a lot of work going on. And then finally, I will say, and Susan, I didn't know if you knew that I won't be returning to the board to do more work. Yeah, this is my last official day in health and safety, my last official day of board meetings, and I am terming out of the board. But I wanted to thank you personally, as someone who I have known since the beginning when I worked at the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board and MindPeace was first getting started. And I've seen so much growth and so many services and supports that you and your colleagues and staff and people have put together. And I think the district is better for that. I'd like us to continue to work with the district around as much as we can to coordinate. And I know we have social workers and counselors, but I think the community perspective, because our kids are in the community. So I think that that's really helpful. So again, congratulations on the work, and thank you for doing what you do. And I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yes, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes. So honored to be here at
Yes,
her
thank
last
you.
meeting.
I know. We did a whole little thing, and I would do it again, but not enough time. But thank you so much. And the one thing that I did want to also add is I appreciated hearing the areas of opportunities, especially within our communities, the gun violence, it's on the rise, and just, oh, sorry. I wasn't supposed to have my ringer on. Just making sure that we have those supports for our students and the whole thing of the loss and the grief. I think that's also very, very important. Not sure if Dr. Little wanted to add anything.
Just to echo the thank you to you, Susan, and to MindPeace, and appreciative of the fact that we are on this path now of getting monthly sort of data updates to better understand impact and dosage and number of students. And the community referral piece is really huge, because we know that there are certainly times where a school doesn't either have access to a therapist or doesn't have enough access to a therapist. So that's been really great for students last year and this year.
And I have one question. I just wanted to make sure that I heard correctly. Students aren't termed out or anything. So I heard you mention that if they were receiving services last year, they were able to receive services this year. They're not told, oh, no, we don't have space for you. You can't.
No.
So
They're like, it's really important. I really believe strongly that for kids who have a chronic, especially kids with chronic mental health conditions, they should have the same team continuing as much as possible. So yes, it's really important that they get the opportunity to continue services through the summer. And then at the start of the school year, same team, same group. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate your partnership.
We appreciate you and thank you so much. You can choose to stay for the rest or.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right. Up next, we have menstrual products and security and an emergency plan at athletic events by Dr. Little.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Little, you have 2 minutes. No, I'm just joking.
Two very brief updates here. Just want to share with the committee where we are on installing products and dispensers for menstrual health. Rob, if we can go forward a few slides. We have installed dispensers for menstrual products. So we now have 76 dispensers located throughout the district. We started with installing 2 at our high school sites and 1 at our elementary sites. And so far this year, we've placed over 130,000 pieces of product. So that's a mix, obviously, of types of product that's out there. We will continue to do that. Now, what we've been able to do thus far with the dispensers and the products that we have this year is use the grant that the state provided. So that was a reimbursable grant. We used every cent of that. Our estimation to continue to keep product in stock moving forward is about $60,000 a year. And that would let us do 3 refills a year at each school. We also are super excited to continue our work with Girls Health Period. They've been such a great and important partner to us, especially in this space. And they are able to sustain their supply of products of about 750 pieces a year to elementary schools and about 1,500 to high schools. So that will certainly continue to help ensure that we've got access on site. At the bottom in the footnote, we have a sheet that will open up and show every school in the amount of product that they've received thus far and how much that costs, just so folks are aware of what's currently out there, including a description of where they're located in the school. That's the only other thing we're doing right now is working closely with schools and with staff to understand as we expand the number of dispensers, where those should be located based on where there is the most traffic and need.
I'll just add something really quick as we're talking about where they are located at the different schools. So I have 2 daughters that attend CPS, and I will tell you, they both saw that they had the products there. So
That's
very
great.
exciting to know that they know where they are, and they were, Mom, they're in the schools. So great job on that.
All right, do you want to move to athletics?
Board Member Jones, do you have any comments or questions about that?
I'm glad that feels like we're moving forward quickly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
great thing. Yes.
Yes, it's exciting to hear that we were able to move forward with that. And then my only other question is I know that we did discuss at our last meeting regarding the education piece. So do you have anything to add with that?
Yes, we've had several follow-up conversations with Girls Health Period on education and thinking about that in terms of education for adult staff as well as for students. And what we are likely going to end up needing to do is putting out an RFP just to cover our bureaucratic basis there for our ability to provide sessions to staff and to students. But we're also working with them and looking at some outside funding opportunities to be able to support that financially.
Sounds great. All right, moving right along.
All right, this is just a quick update on the process we use as we think about athletic events and how we plan and provide security coverage and safety protocols. And it's really thought about in the 4 buckets here on this slide. So before every season, fall, winter, and spring season, our district athletics team with Cincinnati Police Department and our district security get together and look at the season upcoming. What are the games? What's the schedule? What do we anticipate in terms of crowds? And they set the sort of baseline standard for how many CPD officers are going to be staffed to every event, how many district or school security is going to be staffed at the event, and if there's any updated needs for protocols. So this year, that obviously happened in the fall before football season as the main sport, and it's happened already for the winter with basketball season being the main support in the winter season. That then leads to training and sessions with athletic directors so that they're clear on the process. They also have things that they specifically have to work on with the principal to indicate placement. So if I'm at a stadium or if I'm in a gym, where are CPD stationed? Where is district security stationed? What are the roles of those folks in those stations? Before a game, the athletic director and principal review that. They flag anything for our district office team that we may need to be aware of. And for what we casually sort of deem as big games, so things that we know will be much bigger competitions, likely have many more people out, the district team does another review of the plan for that. So for example, Friday night, Woodward and Taft played basketball. That's a big game in the district. So there was an additional layer of review and staffing, even beyond the minimum set at the beginning of the season for that game in anticipation of higher interest and higher attendance. Within the game, there's protocols that coaches and athletic directors use to maintain security and crowd management. That goes from everything to how the teams approach each other to do handshakes and whether or not they're going to do that, to keeping crowd and spectators off the floor of competition and making sure that there's good access to locker rooms back and forth for the teams. After the games, there's a debrief at the school on the event. There's inclusion of district staff for those big games for that as well, to say, okay, what do we need to think about doing differently next time? What did we learn, or what do we need to continue? And in the cases where there's an issue, we do have a collection process now to get athletic incidents to say, okay, here's something that happened that we need to report and either respond to. That could be a student discipline issue, it could be a spectator concern, or just include in our continuous improvement process for supporting athletic events overall. That's it.
So this looks really good, and I appreciate being able to see this. I guess we can kind of maybe talk specifically of an incident in terms of, I know I got a lot of calls about the Withrow game. Moving forward, this is the set plan, or was this plan also in place prior?
I really appreciate that clarification. The preseason part was in place in advance of that. What we have used that as a learning opportunity to better reiterate is this big game sort of review, knowing this is going to be a big deal. So in that case, when Whither played St. X, it was a different experience than in their playoff run. And so this big game sort of extra review, make sure staffing is appropriate, increase it as needed. That was a clear takeaway from that experience. The other thing, which is really specific there in terms of crowd management and entry into the facility, is making sure that we're using all entry gates to help with traffic flow. And I think you experienced this firsthand, but that was not the case initially at that game. So most of this has been in place, but we definitely did the post-game debrief after that to figure out where we needed to make improvements, both at that site and across the district.
That's good to hear, definitely. Looking forward, what could you have done differently as well? Board Member Jones.
Yes, I just want a couple things. One is I'm very familiar with what happened at the Withrow game, and I got called about that, especially from people who had tickets but couldn't get in. Mm-hmm. So that's an issue. If people have tickets legitimately, they should be able to get in, and whatever was going on, people were upset about that. But thank you for the information. One of the things I think concerned about, and I'm sure this is part of the plan, is the crowd management piece. A lot of times folks like to come to the game and they stand around, they crowd around the concession stand, or they're on the ropes, or people sometimes even go down and stand down there where the team is. And I just think that can't happen. I mean, there has to be a way to contain, and I'm not saying like pack everybody in this little bitty spot, but an area where people cannot cross over into, because I think that that's just a sort of incentive for people to act out when they don't have those kind of controls in place. But that's the one thing that I found when I go to football games that just bothers me, because I don't like to see all the walking around and all of that, but that's a big issue. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's an example of our expectation of spectators has been to sit and not stand. That obviously has been loosely enforced at certain sort of games and facilities. That's something that we've already started to review, again, with athletic directors, coaches, and security, that we do have expectations that folks are sitting, and making sure that we're not extremely overselling to the capacity of the location. Like, we know the capacity of our gyms and our stadiums, so making sure that we're not selling a ton more tickets than what we can actually fit people into the space.
thank you.
Thank you very much. You're all done. I think that was it for you, correct? All right. So moving right along, we are going to discuss the year end, and then just kind of have an open discussion. And then we will have other business and then hearing of the public. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read word for word some of the things from our minutes from the year of 2023. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. Then I'm going to leave it to you, Board Member Jones, to add anything else. If you want to do a repeat of what you said earlier, would be great. Do you remember what you said? No. So just to kind of talk about some of the highlights for health and safety. So obviously,
Oh, yeah, I do.
okay, write it down if you don't. So we came up with a good 2023 work plan, and we wanted to make sure that we stuck to the work plan and that we were doing the work for the committee. Obviously, you heard about the menstrual products in the schools. That was a really big, highlight in moving forward. And then, as you heard earlier, the mental health piece, allowing those services to increase and making sure that we're helping our students, the district, and everyone that staff too as well. And we also were able to bring up throughout the year of 2023 concerns about our athletic trainers, and we were able to get some things answered on that. Hopefully that's still not a problem, and we're looking forward to how that will work out for next year. We were also ensured that staff and teachers were AED qualified and that they were also CPR qualified. We had some questions on that. We did talk about bullying, and Dr. Little was able to confirm that bullying incidents were on the decline, so that is good to hear. And then we also reviewed the bully button. We wanted to make sure that parents and families and students were able to locate that bully button, and they also understood the process of how things would work and the location on the website. And so I'm now going to leave it open to Board Member Jones.
Sure. The thing that I just wanted to comment, I think that we've come quite a way with Health and Safety Committee. I said this earlier, and I attribute a lot of that to Mary's leadership of the committee and really identifying the topics that have the most relevance for our kids and prioritizing those. And so I just want to congratulate you, Mary. I know in the beginning I was probably bugging her because I had certain expectations, but you've done a great job with this committee, and I've appreciated sitting next to you and sharing that, bring it in, come by y'all kind of things. But yeah, so the Health and Safety Committee has done a lot of very good things. I think, Dr. Little, having you here is an asset. And I think this one thing that, and this is sort of bigger, I like it when members of the team who have more direct relationship with the information come to these committees to share things. And, you're working with Susan around the mental health piece. It's just helpful to have the firsthand kind of knowledge. So thank you. You've been great on this committee as well, and short time that you've been here. So thank you.
So the one thing that I had, can I actually go to the public speaking really quick, public comment, before I go to my next piece? Okay, I didn't know did you want to say something? Okay, that's fine. Well, I did want to bring up two concerns. Oh, we're kicking things out there in the audience. The audience members, they're okay. One concern that has been brought up to me through some individuals through the community and parents is the topic of edibles. And I just wanted to kind of talk about what's the process of, educating our families and educating our students and making sure that their health and their safety is taken into consideration when it comes to those type of things.
What is
Edibles.
edibles?
Yes, it is on the right. No, we welcome animals. No, edibles in terms of our
edibles.
children
That's
are,
it. All right.
yes, and
Yeah.
getting in the wrong hands of our kids and
Yeah.
things like that. So just if you wanted to talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, this is certainly on our radar.
Or gummies and vaping,
Yeah,
all
that's right.
of those
Okay.
things.
It is on our radar, is a concern. We know we've had some students have issues like, reactions to edibles, unfortunately, this year. And it is part of our ongoing conversation with CPD as well. Part of our just blanket commitment through the Student Code of Conduct is any alcohol or drugs is not allowed. And there are certainly disciplinary responses that we take in those cases. At the secondary level, where we're doing bag checks to the best of our ability, as we do those bag checks in the mornings, those can get discovered and we can take quicker action. Unfortunately, because they are edibles in disguise, it can be easier to get those into the building. But as soon as they are discovered, our teams take quick action from the health side and from the student support discipline side to make sure that we are responding to that, and including trying to find, is there a source or a distributor, or where are these things coming from, to make sure it's not an isolated incident.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring that up, and I know that you all will do your best and will try to do what you can do. And I think at the end of the day, it's just really educating our families and educating our students as well. All right. Anything else that is a concern or anything else that you'd like to add? Because I think we're rounding out. It's 3:49.
So for planning for next year?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. So I really can't necessarily plan because we don't know March. But I would always like to throw my name into the hat. So when I put down planning, I think I just wanted to put down gearing up and making sure, obviously, once we come into January, coming up with some type of plan. So.
I do have one comment about
Okay.
that, a suggestion. And,
Yes.
and Mary, this suggestion is coming from concerns that I know you've expressed
Mhm.
about how the information that are health and safety related, how that gets shared
Mhm.
in public. So I think one of the things I would suggest that the committee work on is working collaboratively with the superintendent to maybe coordinate. It used to be, and I'm not saying it has to be this way, but it used to be that a lot of the stuff that ends up in the CAL meeting that was relevant in health and safety would be shared with health and safety prior to going to CAL. Just so the committee can provide its input and that kind of thing. And we've done that in some occasions, but some occasions we're not. And I can't think of the topic, but I remember one time when you asked a question publicly about what the review, and was that whatever was presented, had that been presented in health and safety. So I'm talking about greater sort of cross coordination of that activity. But other than that, again, the topics I think have been really relevant.
Right. Well, thank you very much. If we have no other business, guess what?
Bye.
We are officially done. And let's give Board Member Jones a big round of applause. Yes, we do. Woo! Thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned. Where's that?